Hello everyone and thank you for joining us. I'm Ashley Hurley.
And I'm Caitlin Klein with this week's LMU Tri-State News Update.
First up, the former owner of a motorcycle shop and his girlfriend face 11 months and 29 days of supervised probation. 26-year-old Autumn Lee and 41-year-old Lenny Brown pled guilty to charges stemming from a 2011 case. Lee faces supervised probation and the forfeiture of $2,000 to the Claiborne County Sheriff's Office Drug Fund on the charge of possession of Schedule II controlled substance. Brown is facing supervised probation and the forfeiture of $2,000 to the Victim's Assistant Assessment for the charge of attempted accessory after the fact. The sentence for both will begin in early July.
Next in news, a guilty plea was made in a 2011 case of vehicular homicide. 28-year-old David Crumley of Ewing, Virginia is facing a sentence in September of this year on 2 counts of vehicular homicide by intoxication. The plea stems from a November 2011 accident on Highway 63 when Crumley crossed the center line, hitting a vehicle head-on, killing the couple inside. The recommended sentence for his plea is 8 years that will be served concurrently, but that will be determined in September. Crumley spent some time in jail but was released on a $150,000 bond.
An investigation into an alarm call lands one man in jail and facing a 4th driving under the influence charge. The officer arrived at the residence where the alarm had been detected and found no one at the home. He went next door where he found 47-year-old Tommy Martin and asked if he knew the owners. According to the report, Martin stated that it was his wife's home and that he would meet the officer there, but the officer smelled alcohol on his breath. The officer continued with the investigation and found that an ignition interlock device is required on Martin's vehicle, but it was not installed. He was placed under arrest and taken to the Claiborne County Jail, where he is charged with driving under the influence, 4th offense, and ignition interlock device.
A Middlesboro man is charged with driving under the influence after officers smelled alcohol on his breath. Officers discovered a vehicle parked in a church parking lot late Saturday night. According to the report, when the driver, 26-year-old Charles Ralston, performed the field sobriety test, the officer determined him to be under the influence. He was placed under arrest and transported to the Claiborne County Jail, where he submitted to an intoximeter test. He is charged with driving under the influence.
A man faces vandalism charges while driving a vehicle under the influence. 22-year-old Griffin Bice was pulled over by an officer with the Claiborne County Sheriff's Office after calls were made that he was driving recklessly through a neighborhood. The report states that he had bloodshot eyes and pinpoint pupils with slurred and delayed speech. The officer placed Bice under arrest for the safety of himself and others. He is charged with driving under the influence, 1st offense.
A Tazewell man is scheduled to serve 6 counts on a guilty plea concurrently. 27-year-old Stephen Rowe entered a guilty plea to prescription fraud, driving under the influence first, and possession of drug paraphernalia. Rowe's sentence consists of completing inpatient rehab and following their recommendations. He will also give a contribution to the new Tazewell Police Department Drug Fund. The charges are Class D felonies and Class A misdemeanors.
A Middlesboro woman faces assault charges. 48-year-old Joy Freeman was arrested by an officer with the Middlesboro Police Department on the charge of 3rd-degree assault and 2 counts of 4th-degree assault. The department received a tip of alleged child abuse by a family member and went to Freeman's house to investigate. The report states Freeman struck the juvenile several times in the leg with a belt, smacked them in the face, and threatened them with a hammer. Freeman is the juvenile's grandmother and is also charged with obstructing governmental operations, resisting arrest, and 2nd-degree disorderly conduct. She was released from custody on Wednesday, and the case remains under investigation.
A man who lied to an officer about who he really is remains in jail today. 22-year-old Stephen Gilbert was pulled over by an officer and told him that his name was Jason, but couldn't remember his birth date. After several minutes of talking with Gilbert, he finally admitted that his name was Stephen. The officer placed him under arrest for 2 outstanding warrants and is also charged with criminal impersonation and unlawful possession of drug paraphernalia.
An accident on Blue Top Road lands the female driver in jail. When officers approached the vehicle, the female driving the car was stumbling around the ditch line. 30-year-old Amy Brantley was given a sobriety test, which she did not perform to officer standards. She was placed under arrest, and when the officers got her to jail, several types of drugs were found inside her clothing. Brantley is charged with public intoxication, possession of Schedule II narcotics, 2 counts, possession of Schedule IV, and contraband into a penal facility. She remains in the Claiborne County Jail with no bond.
An investigation into who is posing as a Clear Fork Utility District worker in Clearfield is ongoing. Residents in the community claim that the person who told them their drinking water was contaminated with methane and is unsafe to drink. Claiborne County officials state there is no contamination in the water, and the person who is posing as a utility worker is spreading rumors. The investigation into the person and the rumor of contamination is ongoing. Emergency officials in Claiborne County are more prepared for disaster after a training session. On Tuesday, agencies from all over the county met at the Justice Center Operations Center for a disaster drill. Claiborne County Emergency Management Director tells LMU Tri-State News exactly what goes into this kind of training.
This is a statewide exercise that started back in October of last year that has progressed over the months to today's event. It's our annual catastrophic exercise. Normally they're held on the west side of the state for earthquakes, things of that nature, but they moved it to East Tennessee this year because we hadn't had one in such a long time. We have to have 3 every year. So it was, we normally can use actual events like the White Lightning Festival and whatnot, but their numbers wasn't adequate enough for us to justify bringing in people to do it. The scenario of the actual exercise is that Tennessee was in a drought situation for about 1.5 years. We were about 16 to 18 inches below normal for rainfall, creating very dry situations in forest lands as well as wildfire or wild lands. We had a front that moved through that created a large amount of lightning without very much moisture with it that started a lot of these fires in several different counties at one time, which is not a far-fetched scenario because that could happen at any time. As far as the evacuations that we done for the south side of the county, those were just luck of the draw as to where that they picked out for us to work in. But overall, we will have to develop after-action reports and hopefully get some better ideals in case this ever was an actual event. There's everything from city government, local government. We are in contact with state government. You have all your local emergency services, your 911 communications, your fire departments, forestry department. Normally we have public health, hospital, emergency medical service. All those are important people in this.
If you experienced any damage from severe weather that moved through Thursday morning, you can report it to Breeding at 423-626-9617.
If you've been on campus through this week, then you've probably seen people carrying guitar cases and other string instruments. Let's turn to LMU Tri-State News reporter Tiffany Duncan to tell us exactly what's going on.
It's Acoustic Music Week on the campus of Lincoln Memorial University, and people from the community and region are taking part in the festivities. Acoustic Music Week consists of many different workshops and classes, focusing on picking the dobro to voice lessons. Darnell Arnault, writer-in-residence for LMU, helped organize the classes.
And we have some of the top names in bluegrass here teaching classes and guitar.
Native and 5-time Female Vocalist of the Year, Dell Ann Bradley, LMU alumni Steve Gully, and more have left the stage to take up the role as teacher this week.
I teach the vocal and performance, and it's ended up being some guitar.
This week focuses on the art of acoustic music.
So acoustic, that means that we're nobody so far is plugged in.
The students are learning to play music with the raw sound, and whether they know it or not, establishing a connection with history.
Well, acoustic music is basically the way that it all started out, you know.
These acoustic music classes are being held as part of a 2-month-long festival called Arts in the Gap. Part of the classes are held at Avery Hall at Lincoln Memorial University, and some of the other classes are held at the Convention Center and the Art Gallery in Cumberland Gap.
Arts in the Gap is a collection of activities, classes, presentations, festivals, celebrations around the arts.
There are activities for every age, so everyone is encouraged to join, from learning to paint, to writing, all the way to hearing the wonderful sounds of acoustic music.
An episode of Entree Wars will be filmed on July 10th at Haymakers Barbecue in Harrogate and July 17th at Gondolier in Harrogate. Come out and be a part of the audience. You can cheer for the competitors as they eat for the Ultimate Eating Championship. If you have a restaurant that you would like to be featured on the show, you can contact us right here at Sigma Communications at 423-869-7095.
Thank you for joining us for this LMU Tri-State News Update. I'm Caitlin Klein.
And for everyone behind the scenes, I'm Ashley Hurley.